Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Timothy Borch. I work as Assistant Director for Transfer Student Services in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions here at UC San Diego. And again, thank you for being with us today. This is our annual in-service for California Community College counselors. We host this during National Transfer Student Week, which is one of the key weeks that we have to support transfer student success, working with our partners at the community colleges, key partners to make sure that we can support students in their educational journey. So thank you for being with us today. Next slide. So this is a webinar, and we are recording this webinar. It will be available on our undergraduate admissions website, located under the resource section of our website. We'll show you where that is later in the presentation, but the recording will be available for sure. Because it's a webinar, please use the Q&A if you have any questions whatsoever. I'll go through the PowerPoint slides, and then we'll do plenty of time for question and answer at the end. But if you have questions throughout, you can feel free to use the Q&A. We do have a couple of our admissions officers available with us today. They will be able to respond to questions, and if there are questions that the whole group could benefit the whole group, we'll definitely take those live as well. Time limitations. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to address every question. We'll try, but we may not be able to. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can. For unanswered questions, please reach out to the undergraduate admissions department after the event via the Contact Us form. And that also is located on the undergraduate admissions website under resources. Closed captioning has been activated. And so why don't we go ahead and get started? Next slide, please. So this is a summary of how we did this year. So for fall 2025, the class that we just recently admitted and the students accepted their offer by June the 1st of 2025. So this is a little bit of the number. These are the numbers that can help kind of show you where we stood with this last cycle. So we had 24,400 plus applications. We did very well application-wise. In fact, more applications than we've ever received before. We admitted about 12,300 so plus. The admit rate was 53%, which is outstanding for a public research university like UC San Diego. And we offer so much to our transfer students. The admit rate of 53% is really favorable. You can see the middle GPA range, 3.55 to 3.94. That is not saying that a student had to have a 3.55 to be admitted. What it is saying is for all the admitted students, that middle band, that 50% band, that's where our students placed. But for California community college students, for non-selective majors, we tell them to be competitive, not guarantee, but to be competitive, at least a 3.0. For our selective majors, and we'll go through that in a little while, the higher the GPA, the better the chance of gaining admission. Just a quick note on this slide, that's a picture of our Geisel Library, one of our key landmarks on campus where our students spend a lot of time. Theodore Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss, the Geisel family's been very, very generous, very supportive of the university. And so Geisel Library, a key landmark on campus. Next slide, please. So I do want to talk about some admissions criteria. So this is a refresher for those of you who have been in the counseling profession for a little while. And for those who are brand new, you might find this helpful. So for UC San Diego, we do look at several different factors for transfer admission. A competitive GPA based on the quality of the applicant pool, and that GPA is based on UC transferable courses exclusively. I mentioned in the last slide that to be competitive for a California community college student for a non-selective major, a 3.0 would be a starting point. Not a guarantee, but that's definitely a starting point. Students also have to be in what we call junior level standing, and that means students complete 60 UC transferable semester units by the end of the spring term prior to fall admission. So we are currently in the application cycle for fall 2026 admission. The application opened August 1st. The filing period is October 1st through December 1st. And so for students who are applying for fall 2026, they do need to complete 60 UC transferable semester units by the end of the spring of 2026. So they have all of this term. If the community college offers a winter intersession, or they could take winter intersession classes, possibly at another community college, and then they have the entire spring term as well. So they still have a lot of time to get to that mark. Students also have to be in good standing their last regular term, and that good standing is defined by at least a 2.0 GPA. Please note that the UC, so it is important to note that the UC transferable GPA is calculated through the end of the fall term. So for those students who are applying for fall 2026 admission, when we calculate a UC transferable GPA for admission purposes, we do calculate it through the end of the fall. Keep in mind that students do have to submit a TAU. That stands for Transfer Academic Update. That's a UC process. So any student that's applying to a University of California campus, they do have to submit the TAU, and the priority deadline to do that is January 30th. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but keep in mind that that's really critical because we need to have their fall grades so that we can, in fact, calculate that GPA for admission purposes. Part 2, so we also look at 7-course pattern completion. This is also referred to as UC General Breadth. This is comprised of 2 UC transferable English composition courses, at least 1 math course. Now, depending on the major, there may be a need for more than 1 math course. And then 4 courses from 2 of the following areas: arts and humanities, physical, biological sciences, social behavioral sciences. So you can see that's what we call the 7-course pattern, and it's very important. The 60 units, for a student to get to 60 units, if they're coming in with no AP exam credit or IB exam credit, for example, or dual enrollment, maybe they didn't take any community college courses while they're in high school. So typically it's between 20 and 22 courses, more or less. So out of that, the 7-course pattern is really key that students adhere to that. And we recommend they complete their English and math courses as soon as they can to help build that foundation toward being a strong student as they look at transfer. Next slide. International students. So international students, there is an English proficiency requirement that is indeed needed for the University of California. For UC San Diego, students must earn B grades or better in both of their UC transferable English composition courses. And that's just for international students to demonstrate English proficiency, okay? Now, if they don't get B's or better in both of those, they can still meet the English proficiency by an exam. And you can see down below, it says, earn a score of 83 or higher on the internet-based TOEFL exam. They can also earn a 7 on the IELTS exam or a 115 on the Duolingo English test. So if a student, international student, does get a C on one of their UC transferable English composition courses, they still have an opportunity to satisfy that English proficiency. And we don't average. So if a student gets an A in their first English composition course and a C in their second, this is an international student, we don't average it out. So they would, in fact, have to take an exam, earn a passing grade on the exam, or they could actually take a third English course as long as it's not considered duplication. Some of the community colleges do have more than one, what we would call IGETC area, the higher level critical thinking course. And so if a student goes that route, that is acceptable. If there are any questions about what that might look like, definitely contact us in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. It's not very common. I mean, usually, for the most part, almost always, not always, but almost always, the international students that I've seen, get B's or better. Next slide, please. Senior standing. This is really important. So a transfer applicant may be considered in senior standing if they've completed 70 semester units or lower, 70 semester units or more of lower division credit, and 20 semester units of upper division credit. Now, let me explain a little bit. So if a student has attended a community college exclusively, there's never a danger of being in senior standing because community college coursework is always considered lower division. So upper division never even enters the equation. Where this could become a factor is if you have a student that maybe started at a 4-year university, now they're at the community college and they're transfer again. If that student completed any upper division courses at their, let's call it an original university. So if they completed any upper division courses, you would have to be careful to make sure that they don't go into senior standing based on the number of lower division units and or the units they complete at the community college. That's a key distinction. So if you have a student that started at a university and then they transferred to a community college, if they took lower division courses at that 4-year university exclusively, never a danger of being in senior standing. Now, there is one sort of exception to all of this. if you're meeting with a UC intercampus transfer student, so a student who enrolled at a UC out of high school, then that student is considered a UC intercampus transfer. All of the units they complete at a UC are added to the total. So there's no differentiation between lower division units and upper division units. So it's all just plopped right on. So you do want to be careful when you're meeting with those students to make sure that they're not going over. So if they have 70 units at the community college and 20 or more from a UC, then they're not going to actually be eligible for admission to UC San Diego. That's what we call senior standing. And so UC coursework counts toward the total, and that's the key factor. Now, we do get quite a few intercampus transfer students who apply to UC San Diego. Many of them apply directly from a UC to UC San Diego, but there are some, I should say, that do start at a UC, and for whatever reason, they transfer to a community college, and then they're looking to transfer to UC San Diego. Absolutely acceptable, but just keep in mind that that senior standing have to be mindful that they don't go over the limit. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Next slide, please. Unit maximum, and this is part two of what we were just talking about a moment ago, what I was saying. So students will be granted up to 70 semester or 105 quarter units of lower division coursework toward their degree at UC San Diego. So that's what we call the max limit. Lower division units beyond the maximum for which credit is awarded will be granted subject credit. So let's say a student has, let's just say they have 100 units from their community college. Let's say a community college in the local area, we'll use San Diego Mesa as an example. They have 100 units from San Diego Mesa College. They're all UC transferable. We cap their units at 70, but beyond the 70, they can still get subject credit for those units. So maybe they took a Calculus 3 course. Maybe they won't get the units, but they will get the subject credit that shows that they satisfied Calculus 3 in that example. And units earned through AP, IB, and or A-level exams are not included in the limitation. So any AP exam or IB exam, those are the most common that we see. AB first, AP first, IB second, and then A-level, there are some for sure. Those units are not added to this equation. So that's something to be aware of too, because we know some of the students that we get who attend a community college, they do have quite a few AP units or maybe IB units from the exams they've taken. So it's based on exams, not the high school courses. And so that's a very important factor to be aware of. Next slide, please. UC San Diego, we have over 160 majors to choose from and 8 academic schools. Our selective majors are listed here. Those majors include bioengineering, chemical engineering, computer science and engineering, electrical and computer engineering, mechanical and aerospace engineering, and then data science and public health. So these are what we consider the selective majors. These are important to be aware of, that they are open for transfer students for sure. But enrollment is limited based on the amount of popularity. So these are definitely what we call selective. They're open. We don't use terms like impacted or anything like that. All of our majors are open to transfer students. But if a student is applying to a selective major, we definitely recommend on the application for admission that they select an alternate major. And that alternate major really should be non-selective. The reason being that could maximize their chances of getting into UC San Diego. Now we know, and I'm sure you know, meeting with students, some of them are just very passionate about a specific discipline. And I'll use computer science as an example because that's probably the most selective major we have. So there might be a student who says, you know what, I just want to major in computer science. And if that's the case, that's fine. So we recommend for those students that they apply to multiple universities that have a computer science program to maximize their chances of getting in. On the other hand, you might have a student that's not, they have a passion for a discipline, but they're also flexible and they're interested in a lot of different things. In those cases, selecting that alternate major can be really helpful because that could maximize their chance of getting into UC San Diego. Maybe they won't get into their first choice major, select a major, but if they're interested in another major, then perhaps they select that as their alternate major. It's not selective. They could potentially still get admission to UC San Diego. Now, I do want to say the caveat is this: if a student's strategy is to select an alternate major that is not what they really want to study, but their goal is to try and get into UC San Diego and then hopefully change later to that selective major, there's not a guarantee that they would be able to do that. So there is a brand new process. that will be employed for students that are looking to do that. And so if a student does that strategy, they should really be aware that there's never a guarantee that they would be able to get into that major after they enroll at UC San Diego. And so we do definitely let students know about that, and we appreciate all the support we have from the counselors who communicate that as well. Next slide. There is an optional portfolio review. So for students that are majoring in music, theater and dance, and visual arts, there's an optional portfolio review that they can submit showcasing their work, whether that's an audition that they've done on video, or maybe it's a sculpture piece that they have some pictures for and some video on, or maybe it's a work of art in terms of literature, or maybe music, or whatever the case might be, dance. It's an optional. So if a student doesn't submit the portfolio, it will not create a disadvantage for them to gain admission to UC San Diego. But we know many students have experience doing what this art might be. And so we want to provide that opportunity for students so that our faculty can definitely take a look at that information. When a student gets admitted to UC San Diego, so there's no audition to get into UC San Diego per se, there certainly is not. But if the student, they get into UC San Diego and they're interested maybe in a production, let's say a play or a musical, then at that point, students would have to audition to try and get in. Those would be competitive opportunities, but that's not admissions related. That would be after the student is admitted to UC San Diego, after they accept an offer of admission, and they are a UC San Diego student. So I just wanted to clarify that. Sometimes there is a little bit of confusion about that. Next slide. Now, this is really important. This is what we would call the fourth major requirement for admission. So the first was 60 units by the end of the spring term prior to fall admission. The second was a competitive grade point average. And again, that can vary from year to year. And we talked about that quite a bit. The third is the 7-course pattern. So we talked about the 7-course pattern, 2 English comp, 1 math, and 4 other from different areas. Finally, there are select majors that do require screening of minimum major preparation. And this slide showcases what that means. So for the majors that are listed in that box on the right, those majors require minimum screening of major preparation in order for the student to be eligible for admission. And so using assist.org, the articulation agreement on assist.org, students can identify which courses are available at their community college that satisfy the minimum courses that are needed for these majors. Now, definitely go to our website, and thank you for putting that link in the chat. And it's also here on this slide, admissions.ucsd.edu/major prep. So you will see there's a subset. So on assist.org, when you look to a major, and let's use an example again, San Diego Mesa College, let's use biology as an example. So any biology major, they have the same major prep. Let's use human biology. It's a popular major, but not selective. So if you go to assist.org, it will delineate all of the major preparation. Major preparation are the lower division courses that students can take to prepare them for their upper division courses when they transfer. It's also great that they can take those courses at the community college, and there are many benefits to doing that. Cost savings, smaller classes typically, and some other benefits as well. So, and sometimes students want to maximize their time at the community college for those reasons and maybe other reasons as well. And so it's a great strategy. But for these majors on the right, there are minimum courses that are needed. So if we were to go to the human biology example, if you go to our website, when I say our website, I mean the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, which is the one that's on this slide, it'll show you and students what the minimum courses are for biology. And those minimum courses are Build 1 and 3. You don't need to know what the course titles are, but Build 1 and 3, the entire general chemistry series, which is Chem 6A, 6B, 6C, and 7L, and then Calculus 1 and Calculus 2. So that would be Math 10A, 10B, or Math 20A, 20B. And the reason I'm going into more depth is I wanted to show the contrast. So if you were to go to assist.org, all of those courses would be delineated, and there would be an equivalent or an articulated course for the biology courses, the general chemistry courses, and the math courses. But on Assist, you will also find physics courses and organic chemistry for human biology. Those courses can be taken at the community college to satisfy all the lower division major preparation. Not required, though. The physics and the organic chemistry in this example for human biology are not required for admission. So it really depends on what the student's goal is. If they want to try and maximize their time at the community college for some of the reasons I've mentioned, they could be at the community college for 2 or 3 years or as many years as they want. There's no time limit to take all the lower division major prep so that when they transfer, they really are focusing on their upper division courses and any remaining general education courses that are needed, perhaps, things of this nature. But there are other students that really are on a tight time schedule and they want to try and move through the community college quickly. They want to move through the university quickly and they want to advance on. And so in those cases, students might say, well, you know what? In this example, maybe I'll hold off on taking organic chemistry and physics and I'll do that after I get admission. Hopefully they gain admission to UC San Diego. So that's the key distinction. You can see all the majors that are listed. This is just a finite number of majors, not all of our majors, but these are some very popular majors, all of our selective majors, and then some additional majors as well. This is a reminder, prospective California Community College students, or CCC, should consult assist.org and the UC admissions website for additional information. Our articulation officer, Sam Dia, does a great job at updating the articulation on assist.org, working with your articulation officers at the community colleges. And so we have a great resource in assist.org. Next slide. Additional information about transfer major preparation. Students planning to transfer must complete the minimum courses, and this is really important. Every year we have some students that come just short. Strong student, strong GPA, they meet all the other requirements, but maybe they're missing a transfer major preparation course, and unfortunately those courses do need to be completed by the end of the spring term prior to fall admission. Applicants for the departments that were listed on the previous slide will be screened for the number of preparatory courses completed, the grades earned in those courses, and the cumulative GPA. Very, very important. And that's why we spent so much time about it during this webinar. We want to make sure that our counselor partners really understand the distinction. Next slide, please. Here's some additional transfer notes, and I alluded to the TAU a few slides before, but advise students to complete major prep prior to transfer. Number 2, applicants must submit their academic update in January. Again, that's the TAU, or Transfer Academic Update for short. Students will be communicated by the UC Office of the President, UC Application Center. They manage the application for admission. So students that submit their application by December 1st, they'll receive a communication mid-December usually, providing instructions and additional guidance on how to do the TAU. It's very easy. Once the students' fall grades come in, they simply go back into their application. They submit the TAU by putting in their fall grades, and they confirm their winter and or spring 2026 courses. Very simple to do. It just takes a few moments, but it is important. Without the TAU submitted, a student's application is really rendered as being incomplete. Finally, number 3, applicants must report all courses completed. We get this question quite a lot. Students are not really sure if they should report a course, and the answer is if they took any college level courses or any courses that they took at a college, they should just report it. And we, in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, will do a very thorough evaluation, and anything that's not considered USAID transferable will not be used in the process for determining admission selection. So it is always better to be safe than sorry. Students really should report everything. And then if a student is admitted, then they do need to submit all their official transcripts. And that deadline to submit official transcripts is July 1st. So we'll talk a little bit about timeline in a few moments, but it is really important. The self-reported information, and that's all it is on the application for admission. It's all self-reported. Once a student gains admission, they do need to submit all official transcripts. And we, in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, we go through every document to make sure that the student did exactly what they said they did. And that's really critical. Next slide, please. So here you can see for fall 2026 admission, the application is available, of course. apply.universityofcalifornia.edu. The TAU, as a reminder, is also required. The priority deadline for that is January. And so another reminder, the deadline to submit the application is December 1st. It is interesting. We do provide this information to the public, and we do find that a lot of students wait until the last 24, 36 hours to submit their application, and perhaps that's human nature, but we definitely recommend that students not wait in case some unexpected situation comes up and they can't submit their application by the deadline. They would have to request to submit a late application, and not every request is approved. There's a lot of variables involved. So they should really try and get their application in several days before that deadline, just in case something unexpected happens. Next slide. You can see some technical support information. Oh, here we go, transfer resources. So here is some additional information. So we do have a Student Veterans Resource Center, and they provide peer support, mentoring, pre-professional networking, and much, much more to military-connected students, to any student. So the Student Veterans Resource Center is open to support any student, but it really, all of our military-connected students can take advantage of those services, and active duty, veterans, retired, all of these students can benefit from our SVRC. Transfer student organizations act as the largest student organization on campus, and they provide all kinds of programming. The Triton Transfer Hub, key partners for the Office of Undergraduate Admission. The Triton Transfer Hub is really that one-stop place on campus that provides unlimited support for transfer students in terms of academic support, connecting them with resources on campus. There's also educational programming and social programming. They do all kinds of pizza nights and all of these kinds of things to make sure that transfer students feel a part of the community. Now, of course, at UC San Diego, we have 8 colleges. Those are 8 smaller communities within the larger community, which is UC San Diego. Students have all the advantages of both. We are a tier 1 research institution with state-of-the-art, world-class faculty, but we also have the college system, which affords a smaller community within the larger community. And that's important. And then the Transfer Triton Hub is another resource that provides students, transfer students, with a key mechanism to try and gain connection to different resources and services on campus so that they can have a great experience as a transfer student. And then finally, the Undergraduate Research Hub is available to make sure that our transfer students are getting those opportunities to do research. We know a lot of our transfer students come to UC San Diego and they want to do research. They're interested in graduate school, maybe they're interested in private industry. And so we want to connect students, their very first order, potentially, for transfer students to some of these undergraduate research opportunities. Very important for UC San Diego. Next slide. Campus housing. So on-campus housing is available for 2 years. There's a 2-year guarantee for transfer students. And so this is actually a picture of some of our newer housing, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So we have apartment style and or suite style. Our transfer students are primarily in apartment style living. There might be some suite style options as well, but it's a 2-year housing guarantee for on campus. There is a community for transfer and upper division students. And for living on campus, dining options are aplenty. So students can dine in any of the restaurants, dining halls. We have all kinds of dining options, whether it's halal, kosher, vegan, organic, and much, much more. There's an app for quick service meals, and there are also some inclusive living and learning communities as well. So we definitely recommend that students take advantage of living on campus. There's a lot of convenience associated with living on campus. There's a lot of community. But we do know that some of our transfer students choose to commute and they live maybe at home or maybe they live off campus, and that's okay too. And those students can have an extraordinary experience as well at UC San Diego. Next slide. Application update. So this is brand new. So for this year, there is a new process when students go to submit their application for UC San Diego. So there's a new college ranking process. There's an option to rank their top 4 colleges in order of preference to have the best chance of an assignment to the college of their choice. So historically, before this year, students could rank their colleges in any order, any preference, and that would basically be it. But now students can only rank their top 4 colleges. And so this ranking process is optional. So a student could literally opt not to actually rank their colleges. If students do not rank their top 4 colleges, they will be assigned to any of the 8 colleges upon admission if they are offered admission. The order of ranking of colleges does not affect chances for admission to UC San Diego, and that's a key message that we provide to counselors every year. And we get this question a lot. It's a good question. Does my college ranking affect whether I'll get admitted, or am I guaranteed admission if I am admitted to my college? The answer is it doesn't affect admission at all. And there's never a guarantee that a student will get their top choice college if they're admitted anyway. But the colleges have a lot of similarities between each of the colleges, but we do recommend that students read up a little bit on the different colleges. The general education courses for each college vary slightly. There's also some other types of things to be aware of. Some have more history and more traditions, but they all offer an excellent experience for our transfer students. Finally, any major, any college. So there's no one major for one college or anything of this nature. If a student is interested in any major across the board, they can rank the colleges in any order of preference. Again, it won't affect their admission status, and they would still have a great experience at UC San Diego. Next slide. Stay connected with us for sure. Admissions.ucsd.edu, visit and events. We have webinars. This is National Transfer Student Week, and this is the second day of webinar programming that we have for transfer students and counselors and supporters. There's also counselor information and parent and family information as well. For those counselors that like to get a little bit more in-depth academic or curriculum information, the catalog is a great resource. So catalog.ucsd.edu. You can pull that up by any discipline on campus, any major, any department. All the course descriptions are listed in the catalog, all the nuance that you would want to know or that a student really wants to know if they really want to have a good understanding of what they could expect at UC San Diego. Finally, the UC Office of the President, which is located up in Oakland, they have great resources on their website. They provide lots of support to community college counselors and to students as well. And you can check their websites out as well on this particular slide. Next slide. So questions. If you have any further questions after today's webinar, feel free. I would recommend using the Contact Us form. That's probably the best way to get a hold of an admissions officer. Use that Contact Us form. Let them know you're a community college counselor. Now, all the community colleges in California actually have an admissions officer assigned to those community colleges. So check with your transfer center to make sure that you're connected. And we would be happy to help in any way we can. As I mentioned earlier, you are our key partner. You are really out in the field. We're out in the field too, but you're really out there in the trenches helping support students and families. And we want to be supportive and we want to be available to help support you in any way we can. So with that, I think we've reached the end of the webinar and we'll take some questions. If there are any questions, I'm going to actually look to see in the Q&A. So it looks like we've got a couple questions. So I am going to take these questions. And thank you for submitting these questions. We still have time if you want to submit additional questions if they haven't been answered. So Dorianne, I see your question. I just want to confirm again that a course cannot apply to two different areas of the 7-course pattern, and it has to be 7 different courses. For example, English 1B for UCE and UCH cannot count towards both. You're absolutely right. You can't count. There have to be 7 distinct courses. So yes, there are courses that satisfy multiple areas, like maybe UCH, which stands for UC Arts and Humanities, UCE, which stands for UC English Composition. But out of that 7 courses, they have to be distinct. And so that's really, really important. So thank you for that excellent question. The next question, Armando, I see your question. Can a student who is a resident or a U.S. citizen, let me make sure I see this question. Is a U.S. citizen, but is from a public university from Mexico, for example, UABC, and is in their 6th semester, is there a way for them to apply and get into UC San Diego? Well, that's a great question. And yes, if they are interested in applying to UC San Diego, they should submit an application for admission. Unfortunately, there are no articulation agreements outside of the state of California, so there's no way for that student or the counselor to really know which courses that they took in Mexico are going to be UC transferable. So the student can still apply, they can still complete coursework at the community college, but just know that if their college from when they attended in Mexico, if they are recognized by the Ministry of Education, then there's a possibility that those courses might transfer. And so that's something to be aware of. But unfortunately, there are no resources that the University of California provides to determine whether international coursework is actually UC transferable. So thank you for that great question. But I'll just finally say, we have lots of students that apply from outside of the United States for transfer admission. So it's definitely, if a student is interested, we encourage them to apply. Renee has a question. Renee. So can the statement below taken from the UC LOTE memo be discussed, and can we get more detailed clarification? So Revelle College and Eleanor Roosevelt College will allow the optional LOTE certification for Cal GETC to certify LOTE general education requirement. So the question I think is, should a student enter UC San Diego with a completed Cal GETC that does not have the optional certification completed, Revelle and Roosevelt will accept an amended Cal GETC form with the certification after student is matriculated. That is correct. So you are absolutely right. And that is available That is published there. And so students can do that for Eleanor Roosevelt and for Revelle. They can definitely do that after they matriculate. So historically for IGETC and now CalGETC, the student really needs to submit that official document before the first day of instruction in the fall. Okay, the deadline that the UC provides is July 15th historically, but for UC San Diego, as long as we get it before they start in the fall. But here, because this is a new process and CalGETC is new and there's a new LOTE certification to show that the student has that, Revelle and ERC will accept that after matriculation. So we certainly hope that that helps. And thank you so much for that excellent question. So Vic, it looks like you have a question. So if a student has, let's say, 25 units from past AP exams, and they then complete 50 units at a CCC, community college, are they capped at 70 units for transfer, or would they be at the 75 unit because of those AP credits? So good question. So for AP exam credits, students, those units don't count toward the max. So in this example that you've provided, 50 units, they would have 50 units at the community college. But then they would also, if you calculated correct, they would have 25 AP exam credits. So, but the max number, the units that go toward the max would be 50. AP exam credit, IB exam credit, A-level exam credit does not count toward the limit. So thank you for that excellent question. And Vic, there's another question about, is there a limit on the amount of AP credits students can use for transfer admission? There's really not. So if one of the admissions officers or Griselda, if you could put there on in the catalog, there is an AP chart, an AP credit matrix. So we can plug that and put it in the chat. So on that, it's important to read, but the first column and the second column are really the keys. They show what the exam score is that the student needs and what those units would look like in that particular exam. But technically, there is no limit on the amount of AP credit that the student can have. So that's, yeah, we do definitely see some students that have quite a bit of AP credit coming into UC San Diego. So these are definitely counselor questions, very in-depth, the kinds of questions that you're getting out in the field, and we really appreciate that. These are definitely questions that require some insight, and so we hopefully that helps a little bit. I think those are all the questions we have. Oh, there is a question here, Armando. Do we offer courses about transfer process for counselors? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Maybe you can clarify in your question. We offer, this is a webinar. This is considered a webinar to help support counselors in terms of general preparation. You might even want to try the UC Office of the President. They just recently, not recently, but they did host the ETS, or Ensuring Transfer Success Counselor Conference, the Ensuring Transfer Success conferences this past fall. And on their website, they do have all of the presentations that were provided during that conference. And there is information about the transfer process. I'm not exactly sure, but definitely that is something that you can check out. They have a lot of great information. So just to let counselors know, every fall, the UC historically does what we call the Ensuring Transfer Success, or ETS conference. There's a virtual offering, and this year we had an in-person offering at UCLA. I was there. It was great to see so many counselors there. And so they do publish all of the PowerPoints and all the presentations that are available so counselors can actually access that information. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And then Kim, it looks like you have a question. Can we speak to the unit limits for students who have completed courses at CSUs and community colleges? So yes. So if a student has completed coursework at a CSU, as long as it's lower division credit, typically it's 100 level or 200 level, whatever their system might be, then there's never a danger of being in senior standing. But once a student starts taking upper division courses, again, if it's a 300 level, if that CSU determines that 300 level courses are considered upper division, or maybe for 3,000, whatever their number system is, that's when a student has to be careful about possibly being in senior standing at UC San Diego. But if the student has completed just lower division units at the CSU and a community college, no danger whatsoever of being in senior standing. So all of those units would be considered lower division. They are still capped at 70 semester units that go toward the degree. You see, students have to complete a certain number of units at UC San Diego in order to get their baccalaureate degree. So there is a limit on the units that are accepted, but students can get subject credit beyond that. The example I used earlier was that Calculus 3 example. So we see that a lot, and we definitely know that we have students who are interested from the CSU, from the UC, from all over. I will add that more than 90% of our transfer students come from California Community College. So you can see our California Community Colleges are key partners. But we definitely have students that attend other four-year universities as well, and they want a shot at coming to UC San Diego. So thank you for that question. Rebecca, I see you have a question. If students have 30 plus units of AP exam credit and will only be at a CCC for 1 year, does this present any issues with transfer selection? For example, if they won't have many completed courses on the college transcript and may not have many activities, how does that provide context? So that is a good question. So for UC San Diego, we're looking primarily at academic performance. The student has to be eligible for admission. The four main things we talked about earlier. And then for selection, we do look at GPA. That's important. So we have to have some basis for determining how that student could be considered selective. And so it's not uncommon, as I mentioned, to have students that have a lot of AP exam credit. But remember, students don't actually get a score. The exam credit is always P. They get a P for pass. And so it's not calculated as units per se in terms of a grade point average. And so it is something to be aware of. Now, a student can certainly apply for admission if they won't have a grade point average, for instance, but they should if they're at a community college, because that fall term, if they're attending a community college, they still have to report their fall grades when they submit their TAU in the fall. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I've ever seen a transfer student that didn't have a GPA. There may be examples of that out there somewhere, but keep in mind, though, it is important that the student do well at the community college. And some of those AP exams, again, I know one of my colleagues put that link in the chat, and thank you for that. Lots of great information on that AP matrix. Kathy has a question. Is assist.org current for UC San Diego? I've been told in the past to only use the UCSD website for articulation. Well, Kathy, yes, it is updated. Every fall, our articulation officer updates assist.org. And so remember, there's a distinction. Assist.org will delineate all of the major preparation courses for any major. The website that we referred to 5 or 6 slides ago, that's specifically for UC San Diego. It doesn't actually have articulation on our website, but rather it shows which minimum courses are needed for the majors that are on that slide. So there is a distinction. So our website doesn't actually have articulation. Our website, meaning UCSD's website. Assist has the articulation, but our website will delineate and show a student which courses they need to have. Then they refer to assist.org to make sure that they are taking the right course at their community college. So thank you for that excellent question. We appreciate that. And Myra, it looks like you have a question. How different are UC admissions processes across the UC system? Is UC San Diego similar to other UC application processes? Well, each UC does it. So there are minimum requirements for admission, but the selection process is determined by the campus. So it's really independent. Each campus has their own selection process. And so there may very well be similarities, but each campus does run their own selection process for admission. So thank you for that good question. Tasha, here's your question. What if the student completed upper division courses at a university and it was taken through their extension program? For example, you have a STEM student who has exceeded 80 unit requirement, but took marching band at Fresno State, which is upper division. Will they be impacted and considered in senior standing? Well, in this example, if they only took one upper division course, there's not a danger of senior standing because they would have to have at least 20 units of upper division credit. So 70 lower division units, whether that's at community college or lower division at a four-year university. And this is a non-UC intercampus transfer we're talking about. So if they just took one course that might be upper division, and marching band might not even be UC transferable. So and on the sound of it, it probably isn't, but we would have to, of course, this is unofficial. Now, extension, you would also have to make sure that the student follows up with extension to find out if those extension courses grant baccalaureate credit or undergraduate credit. Not every extension program does. And so that's a very important distinction to be aware of. Just because it's through an extension at a university like a CSU does not guarantee that those courses are considered UC transferable. Boy, we've had some really excellent questions. Those are all the questions we have so far. And so I think unless there are any final questions, we'll wrap things up. Again, we really appreciate you being with us during the lunch hour on this Wednesday. I know this is a busy time, the middle of the semester for most of our colleagues at the community colleges, although there are a couple of you on the quarter system. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your time. We hope that this has been helpful. I think on behalf of, it looks like there might be one other question, or maybe a couple questions. Where can we find, if you would take IGETC CSU or IGETC for STEM CalGETC? So Zulima, not exactly sure what the question is. So we don't take IGETC for CSU for one thing. So a student would have to be on the track for IGETC for UC. Now CalGETC of course covers both CSU and IGETC. That was the whole reason they changed it. They wanted it to be one uniform. But for IGETC for CSU is not accepted at UC San Diego. So we really appreciate that great question. So we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any additional questions, feel free to use our contact us form. And again, we are out there in the field. We are out there meeting with counselors. So if you're not sure who your admissions officer rep is, just go ahead and use that contact us form. We don't have a list on our website, but if you use that contact us form, we will be sure to respond to that form. And check in with your transfer center, because we did send out a communication to all the transfer centers here in the state of California. And so if you're not sure though, please feel free to use that contact us form. We'd be happy to get back with you. So on behalf of the admissions officers that are joining me today, Mary Jane, Summer, and Anna, and on behalf of Griselda, who helped to organize and really keep us on track, we thank you for your service to transfer students. We appreciate all your support, and we look forward to working with you in the support of transfer student success. Thank you so much.